Activist Cesar Chavez has been canceled following an investigation uncovering years of alleged sexual harassment and abuse. We'll discuss this and more of today's top stories. I'm Celestia Sherman.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with the Baker Institute's Bill King. He'll discuss affordable housing projects and the impact they're having on Harris County.
Plus, producer Linda Gibbs will tell us all about the new limited docuseries The Change, which explores what women experience when going through menopause.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us, talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in New York City, I'm Dwalisa Kautel. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth isn't denying the Pentagon is asking Congress for an additional $200 billion for U.S. military effort in Iran. The comments follow overnight Iranian counterattacks on a major oil field in Qatar. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports.
Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, began a news conference by paying tribute to the 6 servicemen and women who died last week when 2 Air Force refueling tankers collided. Hegseth went on to attack the media for negative reporting on the war against Iran, where Hegseth said the U.S. military continues to face only minor resistance as it systematically destroys Iran's Navy, Air Force, and missile production capability. Hegseth did not dispute reporting that the Pentagon has asked Congress for roughly $200 billion, saying it was needed to replenish missiles and the expensive interceptors the U.S. and allies are using to intercept Iran's comparatively cheap drone weapons. Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told Fox Business about the U.S. strategy to stabilize the global economy during Operation Epic Fury as it relates to SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserve.
The largest coordinated SPR release in history, 400 million barrels, was approved last week, and some countries are going to do more. The U.S. could unilaterally do another SPR release to keep the price down.
Benchmark crude oil prices surpassed $119 a barrel before pulling back. This follows attacks on a major gas complex in Qatar and other oil and gas refineries in the region. The Federal Bureau of Investigations may be purchasing commercially available data that can be used to track Americans' location. As NPR's Jude Joffe-Block reports, that came out in a Senate intelligence hearing today.
Back in 2023, then FBI Director Chris Wray told Congress the FBI was no longer purchasing commercial databases that include location data from internet advertising. At this hearing, Democratic Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon asked current FBI Director Kash Patel if he could also commit to not purchasing Americans' location data. Patel did not.
We do purchase commercially available information that's consistent with the Constitution and the laws under the Electronic Communications Privacy Act.
Wyden says data purchases without a warrant are an end run around the Fourth Amendment, and that's compounded by the potential to use AI to comb through private information. A spokesperson for the FBI declined to comment or clarify what data the FBI is buying. Jude Joffe-Block, NPR News.
The World Happiness Report is out, and it shows Finland remains the happiest land in the world, followed by other Nordic countries and Costa Rica in the top 5. You're listening to NPR from New York.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. In an unprecedented show of opposition to one of Mayor John Whitmire's policies, members of the Houston City Council are pushing for an ordinance intended to reduce coordination between the Houston Police Department and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Council members Alejandra Salinas, Abby Kamen, and Edward Pollard submitted the proposed ordinance to the city secretary yesterday. It's expected to go before the city council for formal consideration next month. News 88.7's Dominic Anthony Walsh has more.
Under current policy, HPD officers are required to contact ICE when they encounter individuals who have certain immigration warrants. The proposed ordinance would give officers discretion over whether to contact the agency. The proposal comes after a series of Houston Chronicle reports revealed a ramp-up in coordination between HPD and ICE. Last week, HPD confirmed officers turned over 85 people to ICE last year. The measure faces political and legal hurdles. Mayor John Whitmire has defended HPD's actions and raised the specter of a state or federal crackdown on Houston should city officials take steps to curtail collaboration with ICE. I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh, News 88.7.
Months after first applying to Texas's billion-dollar school voucher program, Islamic private schools have now been admitted, according to the state comptroller. The decision comes a day after a federal judge extended the application deadline to March 31st and ordered the state to give the schools a chance to apply. 2 lawsuits have been filed by Islamic private schools and parents, accusing the voucher program of excluding them for their religious beliefs. Ahsan Syed is one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit and on the board of the Islamic private school Brighter Horizons Academy.
Happy to see it finally be applied fairly and to be a part of the whole program.
Of the more than 2,200 private schools admitted to the voucher program, only a handful are Islamic schools. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, home of the Name Your Price tool, so drivers can see coverage options at Progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Price and coverage match limited by state law. And the listeners who support this NPR station.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
On the downhill stretch. Hello,
we are
Houston.
here. It's happy Thursday. Ernie's still on spring break. Lucky guy.
Yes, and it's not springing any leaks, I will say.
No.
It's hard to find any rain around here.
Talk to me
about it. It's
about
just warm and dry, right? It's going to be warmer today, 80 degrees, 85 by tomorrow, 86 into the weekend and next week, and probably no rain until April.
So we're just in this kind of slow uptick.
There's a big high pressure dome, big heat dome out west, where they're seeing triple digits in places like Phoenix. Yeah. But we're on the edge of that, but close enough that we're warming up, and it's got enough what we call subsidence, downward motion of the atmosphere, so you don't get a lot of rising motion. If you don't get rising air, then you don't get clouds. If you don't get clouds, you don't get rain.
Well, there are a few clouds, as we can see in our
you might
monitor.
get a few clouds. Well, like I said, we're on the edge of it, but when you're right under it, it's pretty cloudless.
So you've been kind of teasing the idea that we're going to have a pretty hot summer.
I think it bodes for that, and that's not. I'm not brilliant. That's the forecast. If you look at climate center's data, and you look at El Nino forming. That's always a little warmer. So warmer water in the Pacific means heat dome forms, comes over the United States, and usually once they're here to stay for several months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, we want to thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston, whether you're joining us on YouTube. Hello, YouTubers.
I know. They're already looking at a beautiful sky out there.
YouTubers. And don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube page, as well as you can email us anytime at talk@hellohouston.org. Today is March 19th, 2026. We are flying through this.
It really is going quickly, isn't it? The third month of the year. I know. We had a nice event last night called Convos and Cocktails.
That was fabulous.
And a lot of our donors are invited, and we love our donors, that's for sure. Yeah. Chris Shepard was the host, and he's a magnificent chef. The Chris Shepard. Right. Talking to Chris Bluedorn and a couple of other chefs.
Yeah, Aaron Bluedorn, and there was Evelyn.
Is it Aaron? Why did I say Chris?
I think it's Aaron
Chris
Bluedorn.
Shepard, sorry. Yeah.
And is it Benji Mason was there as well, and Evelyn Garcia from June. Fabulous time, great food.
That was good food, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see a lot of people that watch our show.
Yes.
Or listen to it, which is the same thing to us.
Which is always fun, right? Because we're mainly in radio, so we don't see people. Yeah,
right.
You understand. We don't see the people every day. So then to be having people say, I hear y'all, I listen to you, it's like, well, thank you. There is somebody out there listening to us. But again, thanks for joining us. We know that you have lots of options, but you decided to join us today. Frank, what do we have coming up on Hello Houston?
Well, we have current obsessions. I can't wait to hear yours. I don't know it.
I
already told you mine, but don't say it.
Yes, I'm not going to say it, but that's a great one. And so just a heads up, a teaser. Frank has a great current obsession. I would say mine is more of a pet peeve.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow. Because those sometimes you wake up thinking about them. They are truly obsessions.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe not a good obsession.
I have my pet peeve, but we want to hear yours.
Yeah, we're going to talk about March Madness. We're already getting YouTubers who are, Alex on YouTube is like, that's my obsession. So we'll do that. And then Baker Institute's Bill King. I love talking to Bill.
He's always great.
And he's going to be with us in studio to talk about the impact that all of this affordable housing projects, which we talk about all the time.
It's a big topic.
Somebody's got to pay for them.
It's a big deal.
And what does it mean to your pocketbook?
Yeah, and it affects many.
It does. So. Disturbing news from the New York Times investigation, and as we've been talking about earlier, so have at it.
Houston's annual march honoring labor leader Cesar Chavez has been canceled following the New York Times investigation detailing years of alleged sexual abuse, including claims involving 2 minors. The march, scheduled for March 28th, ahead of Cesar Chavez Day, was called off by organizers. Chavez, who founded what became the United Farm Workers Union, is a prominent figure in Latino and labor history, with a street and high school in Houston bearing his name. Cesar Chavez died in 1993. Governor Greg Abbott also says Texas will not observe Cesar Chavez Day this year. Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. What are your thoughts on the decision to cancel the march? What are you thinking what is your thoughts on these allegations? Should all Chavez streets and schools be renamed? Give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
And, well, what can you say? It's a tragic reveal.
Yeah.
Dolores Huerta, who really was sort of the workforce behind. Mm-hmm. I think all of these schools should be renamed for her. And
I didn't think about that.
There's an interview with her today in the New York Times, and she was told that when they were just passed legislation that gave millions of undocumented immigrants status. They tapped her on the shoulder. He tapped her on the shoulder and said, "We have an emergency in Florida. You need to get out of here." She goes to Florida. There's no emergency. There's no nothing. They just didn't want her around for the credit. The men wanted the woman out of the room so they could take the credit, which is totally different than sexual abuse. But you know what? It goes to character.
Yes.
And so I think what's happening here is, name those streets Huerta Avenue. And Huerta Middle School, and Huerta High School. I think that would be an honor for her. Yeah. And she's brave at this age. She's 95 years old.
Yeah.
So what she did then for the movement, it was all for the movement. Even keeping silent then was for the movement.
And I think, again, this is extremely difficult because here you talk about the movement, and we're having to hold 2 truths at the same time. There was a major historical impact. Cesar Chavez as well as Dolores Huerta. But obviously, Chavez's name is the one at the forefront of this. But we're having to look at the impacts that he had on this movement and the current labor and the modern labor markets. And then also looking at the seriousness of the allegations now being reported, that this is complex and nuanced. But, Frank, I would even take it a step further than it's a deeper question whether events should be canceled or not. It's how communities truly reconcile honoring contributions while confronting credible claims. And, this is not the first time that we've seen this. Just in our meeting before we walked in, we were discussing the Me Too movement.
Well, and Woody Allen, look where he's gone.
And I think the difference, though, now is the way we report it.
Yes.
Now we are saying, okay, will no longer protect legacy overlooking truth and accountability.
Even Christopher Columbus has been called on for the way he treated people, which they don't even call it the Hispaniola because of the way the Spanish conquistadors were.
I don't think we have Christopher Columbus Day anymore.
No, we don't. Yeah. No, we don't, because of the way he treated people. So you're absolutely right. Accountability counts. It goes to regardless of whether he's here to defend himself or not.
He passed away in 1993. There's question around, now she has come up. He cannot defend himself.
As have other women, like 60. I mean, a lot of women.
60.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that is the point to this, right? Is there's credible accounts.
Emails.
It's documented.
That were like 10 years ago. But look, I was going to say, if people may not really know what that movement did.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. There were farm workers and still are, obviously, but these immigrants, the bathrooms and the sleeping quarters and the wages and the way they were treated, it was one step above slavery. I mean, it was terrible. Yeah. And this is what they fought for. And so, yes, it was, can't be forgotten.
Right.
And it shouldn't be forgotten.
And that's where it becomes so nuanced in that. How do you not just, and the concern becomes just throw everything out, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, just saying, across the board, this is all terrible. And it's like, well, wait a minute, hold on. We do have to look at the significance that this movement had. And as you mentioned, it was not just Cesar Chavez. It was not him. But I think that as a society, we oftentimes want to hold on to that icon, that one person that we can build up to say, oh, that was the face of the movement.
Yeah,
but
I would love to know Ken Burns' take on it because he talks a lot, the documentarian with PBS. He talks a lot about people being a part of their times, and would Chavez have had the same behavior if he was here now and lived now? He was in the 70s. Now, some of these girls were minors, and so I think everyone should have known back then you don't treat people the way he treated these women.
Yes, especially minors. But it's interesting that you say that, Frank. I think that it's not just we look at the times and the culture, and I think that this again goes back to making sure that we have to have women at the table when we look at power and structures and organizations. Would he have been doing this and gotten away with it for so long if there had been 4 or 5 women at the forefront standing next to him and not just Dolores Huerta, perhaps the only female in a room full of men?
Correct. No, the culture was different then.
Yeah.
This happened, the boss and secretary thing was unfortunately a much more common situation in the 60s and 70s.
And we started discussing that in our earlier meeting
and
about
here the
Charlie Rose.
People knew, and he was the 70s and 80s. Epstein was the aughts and the teens. He was convicted, and then it still continued after he was convicted. So there's no excuse for all of these white men and the Epstein files who we can't apparently find out about or convict or do anything unless you're in England.
Right. And when we start looking at that, you even have, you mentioned race. How much of race does this play into that? Okay, we'll go after Cesar Chavez. We'll go after Bill Cosby. We're going to go after R. Kelly. We're going to go after P. Diddy, looking at men in the powerful structures. And then you look at Epstein and you're like, well, wait a minute. Why is one not like the other here?
And race and money.
Power
and a white billionaire who surrounded himself with white millionaires and maybe a few billionaires, but that wall of money was impenetrable. But he had the wall of money, I think, probably because he was white,
and also the academic elite. Epstein was very strategic in who he had in his circles. Okay, 713-440-8870. We do have a lot of comments coming through, and we do have a call. John from Baytown. John, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Good morning. First of all, I love y'all's show. Listen to you every day. Just want to say, and you guys just hit the nail on the head. We're going up to all this with Cesar Chavez now, but how long have we been trying to get things with Trump? It's like that's totally been disregarded. And you touch with the Epstein files, the other celebrities. But I'm not condoning anything Cesar Chavez did at all. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it's like you're jumping all over this, but you're not. The highest man in the country right now is not being touched over it.
And I haven't heard any
accusations are left and right.
John, I haven't heard any comment from President Trump regarding this.
Cesar Chavez.
Have you?
And he He's not going to. He's going to stay away from that, and you know it.
Yeah, I know. I do know it. You know it, too. Thank you for calling, John. Keep the faith, buddy. Earl Grey T-Cat says, rename everything for Dolores Huerta and teach more about her. There you go.
That's a great way to honor the movement and also honor women and their contributions and her specifically.
Yeah, well, you heard it here first on
on
NPR, PBS. Don't take our money away. We'll come up with more good ideas.
We also, Noah Espinosa, two things. It's tragic to see another hero fallen due to a dark secret. I'm still a proud Latino, but this surely does hurt the pride as a community. Alex Garza says, I support canceling events tied to Cesar Chavez after the New York Times investigation. It's the right call. I'm also fine with renaming schools and facilities if the allegations hold.
Well, it's a heck of an article. Both the article on Dolores Huerta that was in today, and there's a link to the investigation piece. I read them both. So read them both. Go ahead.
And,
my British computer guy
said he fought for better working conditions, fair wages, and labor rights for farm workers. His leadership brought national attention to the plight of agricultural workers.
Their work.
Deny it.
Her work.
And
he was the charismatic face.
And all of the people that stood behind him that could have lost their jobs, that it was unsafe for them to say, we're going to boycott our work. We're going to sit out. We're not going to do this. Jen from Clear Lake sent us a text. There is a difference between the role a person plays in a movement and how they behaved as a person. People can be complicated. A person can do great things and also very ugly things. It's hard. And it's one of those things where I think that what's tough is that this is nothing new. I would say this is something that we continue to see as a society. But again, it's the way we are discussing it. Looking for, instead of protecting legacies, we are looking to hold truth and accountability. YouTube, Sean Radigan says, Woody Allen marrying his daughter seems like a real red flag to me back in the 90s.
Yeah. And funny how some of the critics haven't even condemned Trump for all sexual abuse allegations. This has been mentioned. That's from Perry Neil Ralph. Some long name.
Yeah, and these are bigger questions, right? When we look at these type situations, they are complex, they're nuanced, and how as a society are we able to hold two truths at the same time, understanding that a lot of good came out of the movement. Unfortunately, when we look at the person that we held at the forefront of this,
right?
He sounds terrible. It was horrible.
Yeah.
He's a
and
predator.
I think that's exactly it, that we see a lot of good come out of a lot of people, but then there tends to sometimes be a darker side.
Well,
and look, sometimes that darker side is held in the shadows by other people also, which is what's happening with the Epstein files, right? I mean, back then in the 70s, these women they had no Me Too movement. They were afraid to speak out. They were people of color. They were women. They were foreign. I mean, this was, for them to say anything. And Dolores Huerta had 2 children from Chavez, one from a rape and one from another assault. And she didn't even say anything about that.
Frank, when you read the articles, did she explain any reason why she's coming out now in her 90s and didn't bring this up earlier?
Yes, and again, it's not that complicated, but I think she's older, and now is the time, and the other women have said stuff, and I think she's standing behind them because her voice is the one that has really been so strong on this.
Right.
At her age and for her and the respect I think that the movement does give to her. And she said, these girls are telling the truth because it happened to me too.
Right. And we did receive a text. This person is Richard from Magnolia, says, like Celeste said, 2 things can be true. Chavez is allegedly a sexual predator and a civil rights champion. George Washington was a Revolutionary War hero and a slave owner.
True.
That's
why I said Ken Burns does such a wonderful explanation of people and the time they live and how they act in the time they live. Doesn't justify it.
Absolutely
but it
not.
explains a little bit more about how these 2 things can be true. And I think now we're in the time where we say, you know what? We don't We don't accept that to be the name of our high school or the name of our road or the name of our parade. We can still accept the good things that came out of that time, and we can rename everything Dolores Huerta High School. So there you go. We solved that problem.
You know, again, Cesar Chavez passed away in 1993, and some people might be saying, well, why do that now? Why tarnish his legacy? And you know, what type of justice?
Why do that now?
What type of justice could be served? And what I hope that this does is I hope that this brings some kind of justice and peace for the victims that are able to now speak their truth. And that in itself is power. Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll also talk to the Baker Institute's Bill King about the impact of affordable housing projects are having on Harris County. This is News 88.7.
On the next Science Friday, Project Hail Mary hits theaters this weekend. Move over, Ryan Gosling. Hollywood has a new leading man.
We've got a creature made out of basically rocks that does not have a face, doesn't have eyes, can't make facial expressions at all, and we need the audience to love him.
That's on Science Friday from WNYC Studios.
You can hear Science Friday tomorrow at 1 p.m. on News 88.7.
Next time on Climate One, how do leaders find a balance between addressing climate, affordability, and planning for the future?
We have to compromise on behalf of what can be done, but also take the very, very visionary and compassionate steps.
Hawaii Governor Josh Green on the state's decarbonization on the next Climate One.
Sunday morning at 6 on News 88.7.
You count on Houston Public Media. That's why you're here right now. Take the next step and become a new member today. Every gift makes a difference. And with a gift of $5 or more per month, you'll receive PBS Passport, a member benefit that lets you stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a few minutes to make a big difference. Become a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, a night of mystery and intrigue with Father Brown at 7, followed by the Sister Boniface Mysteries at 8, and Death in Paradise at 9. Tonight on TV 8.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
All right, a new report out of Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy raises questions about the long-term cost of affordable housing programs in Harris County. We talk about affordable housing and the lack thereof a lot on our programs. And this study finds that these projects could result in billions of dollars in lost property tax revenue over the coming years, with potential impacts on both taxpayers, which you and I are, and local services. So joining us now, I always love having Bill King on, and he's here today in studio. He's a fellow in public finance at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Always has plenty to say. Bill, break this down for us.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Yes, good morning.
So there was a particular device that was set up by the legislature over a number of years. They're called PFCs, which are private finance corporations, and HFCs, housing finance corporations. And what they were allowed to do is to basically make an agreement with an apartment owner or developer that they would waive the property taxes for that property if they set up a certain number of affordable housing units in their project. And so it all seemed like kind of a good idea, and it went along for many years, and there weren't very many of these projects done. But all of a sudden, in about 2019, the city of Houston started dramatically ramping these up. And there had only been a handful of projects did. They did 150 of them over the 4 years, from 19 through 25, and took literally billions off the tax rolls. And so we were tasked to look at what are these actually costing so that you could, if you don't know what something costs, you can't compare what potential benefit there is to that cost. And so we were asked to calculate what the cost is. And basically we came up with, and we just looked at Harris County, that in Harris County, taxing entities in Harris County in 2025 lost about $125 million. And this is school districts, cities, the county, the hospital district, flood control district, ESDs, mud districts. And one of the really insidious thing about this is that these housing authorities could go off and do this without consulting the tax entities or getting their permission or buy-in. So for a big entity, it didn't make a lot of difference on the particular transaction. But some of these, for these small MUDs, you take out a couple apartment projects and they'd lose like 25% of their tax roll.
Well, when you look at that, when you're looking at that number, $125 million, who ultimately pays for that loss? Is it going to be the homeowner? Is it going to be the renter? Or cuts to services?
Well, the governments who lose the revenue have two choices. They can cut services, they can reduce their expenses, or they can raise tax rates and spread that tax over more taxpayers. And not very good at cutting expenses, so likely it's going to be spread among the rest of us.
And none of us voted for this.
Right.
None of us knew about this.
In fact, and the entities who had their tax taken away didn't know about it or didn't approve it. That's the really odd thing about this. So the city of Houston was doing this, but HISD didn't sign off on it. Harris County didn't sign off on it. The MUDs that are inside the – and by the way, Houston could do this outside of their jurisdictions.
So I know you take a look at the data and tell us what you're finding. And you're not really big on pointing fingers. I know. Well,
but let's point fingers.
But 2019, who was in charge that let this happen?
Well, this all happened in the second term of Sylvester Turner's administration.
I'm curious, though, going back to $125 million, HISD is huge, Houston is huge. When you really look at that number and it's very real, how does it actually look over on a timeline?
So that's per year. And so these deals go on for decades. Some of them are 99-year deals. And so we just calculated the total cost over the next 10 years, and it was a little over $2 billion.
Wow.
So when you're looking at the housing finance, what was that specific, the FOC?
They're PFCs and HFCs. Yeah.
When you're looking at those specifically, was there not any type of regulation put into it that had some type of stopgaps? It was just open?
It was the statute's very open-ended. And it really left it to the housing authority to look at it. And the housing authority at one time was doing one deal a week of these, which nobody can underwrite for that. There's also been a whistleblower that was out there that said he was the one supposed to be approving them. He was recommending they not get done, and the board was overruling him and doing these. The other strange part about this is that once the Houston Housing Authority got into it, other agencies around the state figured out they could do this. And at that point in time, there was no geographic restrictions. So we have the Pecos County Housing Authority doing transactions inside Harris County.
Oh, my gosh.
We have the Jourdanton Housing Authority, which is a little tiny town south of San Antonio, doing more transactions in Harris County than their total tax roll was. And there was a cottage industry of consultants and lawyers around this that were putting all these deals together, and they were getting paid huge fees.
Well, that was my question. Who benefited from all of this?
Well, the apartment owners that don't have to pay property taxes benefited, but there were these guides that showed them how to do these transactions. One thing that we're going to come out with in a few days here is we also went and looked at how many of these were existing apartment projects versus how many were new construction. And so the original idea was here you'd be building more units and have more housing out there. But it looks like to us probably 2/3, maybe a little bit more, were existing apartment projects. And one person I know in the apartment industry said, Bill, these deals were done to bail out bad apartment projects.
So is Harris County basically trading long-term stability for short-term housing gains?
Well, we didn't look at whether or not these actually provided any affordability or not. Houston Chronicle has looked at that quite extensively, and their conclusion was it didn't provide much affordability. So that's kind of an open question about what the benefits were. We have not looked at that at Rice.
I was going to say. So, do you just report and lead it to us, or do you offer any solutions to this?
So at Baker, we're fact finders.
Yes,
and
good ones.
Yeah, and so we do that. Now, Bill King sometimes comes up with his suggestions about what ought to be
done. By the way,
you can tell us.
If you just joined us, Bill is a fellow in public finance at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. And if you have any comments or questions, 713-440-8870. Okay, Bill, what do you think?
So, first of all, Paul Bettencourt and Gary Gates have passed a couple of bills that have substantially reformed this area, so it's much more difficult to do this than it used to be. When Whitmire got elected, he replaced the board and the management at the Houston Housing Authority, and they have cut way back on the number of deals that are being done now. So I think here locally, going forward, this is not as bad as it had been in the past, although we're left with these legacy deals, and something I think needs to be done is we need to very carefully monitor those and make sure they're doing what they said they were going to do, and if not, take away their tax exemption.
And it's also now called the Houston Housing Alliance HTX.
HTX, right? Yeah.
Yes. Well, we as I said, have had a lot of guests on.
We actually had the new director on.
We've had a lot of people on about affordable housing, and there always seems to be a difficulty finding it.
Yeah, let me just say, I'm not sure I agree with that principle, by the way. It's sort of one of those things that everybody says is the case. But we started getting data from, there's a service in town that gives you all the data on vacancies and rents for apartments. Rents have been coming down pretty dramatically in Houston, and vacancies have been going up over the last couple of years. So
then where is the disconnect happening then, Bill?
I think this is kind of like the demographics we talked about before, is we're always looking in the rearview mirror. You know, Gordie Howe, a famous hockey player, said you don't skate to where the puck is, you skate to where the puck's going to be. And when people are looking at these trends that have historically existed, sometimes they're missing the data that's happening around them at the moment. And if you think about the fact that Houston's population, the city of Houston population, hasn't changed in 10 years, but we've obviously been building a lot of stuff. So if you've got a bigger supply and no more demand, we know what that does to prices. And I think we're beginning to see that.
But Bill, I know you mentioned this, and you've said this before, but we continue to hear how much Harris County and maybe even Houston is growing. So is that not true?
So Houston is absolutely not growing.
What about Harris County?
So Harris County has grown the last several years, but 100% of its growth has been international immigration. On domestic immigration, people moving here from some other place inside the United States, that's been in a 10-year decline. And over the last 10 years, we've had 200,000 more people move out of Harris County to someplace else in the United States than moving into Harris County. The only thing that's propped us up has been international immigration, and it certainly looks like that is dramatically declining right now.
Okay.
Well, while we're on that, is it true of the 7-county area, Fort Bend County, Galveston County?
So if you look at the surrounding counties, they're doing better, especially the ones to the north and to the west. Now, the counties along the coast are not doing very well because people are worried about the storms down there. And so they're
Lake City
struggling.
and Clear Lake doing pretty well.
Well, all of that.
Don't you live down there, or did?
I did. Used to, yeah.
You moved out.
Yeah.
You moved out.
Yeah. If you go and look at the demographic projections for all the coastal counties, they're very flat going forward.
So, Bill, I've got to ask you. So, if we are looking at where the puck is going, what is the biggest mistake that policymakers are making when they're looking at these projects and approving them?
So they're assuming that women are going to continue to have babies at the rate they were having them decades ago, and they're also assuming that immigration is going to continue at the rate that it's been in the past. And regardless of what happens to this administration, you know, I frequently say Trump is a reflection of where the mood of the country is. You know, he didn't create the mood, he's a reflection of it. And the country is not in the mood for a lot of immigration right now. And so I think that's going to go down dramatically in the future. And by the way, that's a global phenomenon that's going on. And then women are just, you know, not going to have a lot of babies anymore. There's just so many reasons that they're not going to do that. Right now in the United States, the birth rate's 1.6. You've got to have 2.0 just to have a stable population.
I remember it was 2.4 when I was a boy, like in the early 70s. So it is going down, and there isn't a lot you can do about it.
Well, and I don't know that we ought to be doing a lot about it. I mean, this women not having to have children freed them up to do a lot of other things.
Sure.
Like host radio shows or
absolutely.
Or discover,
mother of two over there, by the way.
Yes.
Or discover the CRISPR technology. That was an all-woman team that came up with the discovery of how do you go about and splice genes together. And so would it have been better for those women to stay home and have 5 kids each or to discover CRISPR? I kind of think it was probably better to discover CRISPR. So I don't think that we ought to be trying to fix this necessarily. I think what we ought to do is start being realistic about what we need to be going forward. And I'll give you a good example. Unless you think women are going to have a bunch more kids or we're going to start bringing in a bunch of people from outside the country, Texas will never have more school-age children than it has today. Every year going forward, there will be fewer school-age children in the state of Texas. And you see that first in the elementary schools. 70 public school campuses have been closed in the state of Texas just last year.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to be building any more schools.
And we're about to close 12 just within our own school district.
And
probably rename a couple.
And probably need to close about 3 times that many.
But
really? In HISD, yeah.
But Bill, when we're looking at tax revenue, are there smarter ways to be incentivizing affordable housing without actually losing the tax revenue?
I think there is. And what I've never liked about housing policy, and this really goes to the federal level, it encourages people to rent. And people got into the middle class over the last 50 years by owning a home and building up an equity in it. And that's what most people want. They want to own a home. And we do almost nothing on the affordable housing side to encourage home ownership. We do some things, but not nearly what we do for the multifamily. And because there's business interests around the multifamily, and they lobby and they get these special benefits. What I would like to see us do is start concentrating on helping young families especially get their first home.
So what's your thought on interest rates?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's part of what helps them.
Yeah.
And while we're on that subject, and what's your thought on 50-year mortgages?
I was just thinking that, yes.
So look at tell us what you think about the 50-year mortgage and about interest rates at 5%.
So interest rates are not high by historical standards.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I are old enough to remember we paid a lot more than that.
Yeah, I was
sure.
at 11.5% my first house.
And so I don't think that lowering interest rates, first of all, I don't think it's realistic they're going to be lowered a lot. But there's a lot of things that we could do to get down the regulatory cost. To try to get a building permit in the city of Houston is just a nightmare. If we could streamline those kind of procedures, Well,
John Whitmire is trying to do that.
Yeah, every mayor's tried to do it. So far, nobody's really been very successful at it. But I'll give you another example. I think the last time I checked, the city of Houston owns, I want to say 8,000 or 9,000 vacant lots that we've foreclosed on for taxes or gotten in some way. We ought to go figure out a way to take those, use those as an equity towards a mortgage, build a house and help somebody get into it, and give them the lot as their down payment.
Yeah, that's a good incentive.
Yeah,
especially lots in nice places.
Yeah, and we're not using those lots for anything.
Right. So how does Harris County then compare to other metros doing similar projects, or are other metros doing similar projects?
Yeah, so there's every place around the country has their own approach to this, but overwhelmingly the approach is to try to get people where they can rent something. And I just think fundamentally, I'll give you an example. There's a project here called CUNY Homes. It's right across the street from TSU. There are generations of families that have lived in that public housing and never gotten out of there because they're not building any equity in a house. If we would have, 3 generations ago said, okay, let's get you a house someplace where you will own it at the end of the day and you can, sell it or you can pass it on to your kids or whatever, that starts building generational wealth. And nobody builds generational wealth by renting an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
No. And I'm afraid when I think about this giving away the lots, you probably end up giving a lot of them to builders who are going to build more apartments and rent them.
Well, you can control all this since you own the property.
You
can
will,
say, you could get builders. You have builders come in and say, we're going to have you build a house, pay you for that, and then we're going to control giving these to, families When I was running for mayor, one thing I wanted to do is to do this for police officers because, almost none of our police officers live inside the city of Houston, and incentivize police officers and firefighters to move back inside the city of Houston.
Well, and I know Habitat for Humanity would probably like a lot of those lots.
By the way, they've come up with a new modular project. Y'all might have seen they just had a press release the last few days about this.
No, I didn't
It's
see
over
it.
in the 3rd Ward. It's a modular house. It's going to be very affordable. That's the sort of things we need to be doing, I think.
But do you think a modular house is going to get equity build up like you want to see?
It's not a modular house it's not like a trailer house that we think about.
Okay. Right.
These are things that are built in a factory. They bring them so they're built on a slab and they're constructed right there on the spot.
The first house I owned was a Sears and Roebuck house. Really?
Yeah, really.
It was ordered out of Sears and Roebuck and put together in Roanoke, Virginia.
Yeah.
But I am curious, though, when we look at that type of model, what type of fiscal trade-off is done at that point?
So you're going to have to come up with a way to finance it. But, governments can still borrow money at very low interest rates. And if you've got the income coming in from the mortgage payments, it's not really a drag on the current government. And at the same time, you're building a tax base to increase the tax base within the city.
Well, all right, we got to wrap it up here. What you got for us next time you show up?
Yeah, what do you got cooking, Bill?
Well, I'm speaking on this depopulation issue about 3 times a week right now. I spoke to the World Affairs Council last night. Had a bunch of smart people. They're asking really, really good questions. But I'm going to do some follow-up on that. We're going to have the new census numbers for Harris County here in about another month or 2, month and a half, something like that. And we'll be able to look at what actually happened in Harris County in 2025. And 25 is going to be interesting because they measure from July to July. So when we get those numbers, it's going to be 6 months of the Biden administration and 6 months of the Trump administration.
Wow. Oh, that is going to be interesting.
We got the Texas numbers, by the way. This is something, in Texas, 3 years ago, we had 222,000 people move here from other states. 222,000. Last year it was 67,000.
Wow.
Dropped by 75% in the last 3 years. Florida's in-migration has dropped by 90% in the last 3 years.
Wow. Bill King is a fellow in public finance at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Bill is also full of knowledge. Thank you.
I know.
So
It's
always so fun to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
You bet. Absolutely.
And you're going to have to be back soon.
Anytime.
Coming up, a local filmmaker's newest documentary. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Today's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
In a small town on the Oregon coast, a community comes together to protest an ICE facility.
So this is perceived as a kind of existential threat to the town on moral, political, and economic levels.
I'm Amy Scott. A look at Newport's fight against ICE. Next time on Marketplace.
You can hear Marketplace this evening at 6:30 here on News 88.7.
Gentle parenting indulges a child's biggest emotions, and it's wearing parents out.
When you're indulging these big feelings, it's hard to enforce boundaries. Those two objectives collide.
Why it's so difficult to navigate this method of parenting, which discourages a lot of old-fashioned ways of doing things. That's next time on Think.
Think, coming your way at 11 o'clock tonight on News 88.7.
Support comes from the Mercury Chamber Orchestra presenting Love, a performance that blends music and theater featuring music of the Baroque and the vision of French director Pascal Rambert on love and loss. March 20th and 21st, mercuryhouston.org.
Support comes from Doran Mayhew, a CPA and advisory firm with tax, accounting, audit, payroll, consulting, and more, serving all sectors, including construction, manufacturing, wholesale and distribution, and international. More at doeren.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
The Change, Unleashing the Wild Woman is a limited documentary series that explores the physical, emotional, and cultural transformation that women experience when going through menopause, featuring both expert insight and stories from real women. The series highlights the gaps in traditional care as well as the growing role of holistic and evidence-based treatment, options to help support women through this stage of life. To tell us more about this series, we're joined by producer, director, and founder of Gibbs Media Group, Linda Gibbs. Linda, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
This might be maybe an obvious question, but what made you want to tell this story? Were you going through menopause at that time?
You know, I actually was. And I had a really good friend, a gynecologist friend of mine, who had just finished their integrative medicine fellowship. And I had no idea what integrative medicine was at the time. And she said, oh, it's all about hormones. And I said, hormones? I said, my gynecologist never asked me about my hormones. And she said, yeah, it's something you should, look into.
Right, because I feel like something like menopause is something that you only discuss when you're going through it yourself or be very interested in it.
I feel very left out of this conversation. But yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot about it. And I've worked with women who've gone through it.
It's tough.
But I don't know what this integrative medicine approach is. So can you tell us?
So the integrative approach is basically looking at the whole body. Menopause affects everything. It affects you mentally, physically, emotionally. And these docs, they treat the whole body, and it's very individualized, it's very customized to whatever that person is going through at the time. And a lot of times you go to your gynecologist and you're in for 10 minutes, you get, your pap smear, you get a breast exam, and that's it.
Right.
And no one, when I was having these issues, no one ever asked me about my hormones. No one asked me to get a blood test to see what my levels were. And it was like, oh my God, nobody's done that. So I, as a producer, started looking into it and thought that this is a huge void that women need to know more about. So I started 10 years ago.
I will say it can be really handy for menopause. Truly, I mean, a lot of men with prostate cancer have hormone therapy, especially if they go through radiation, and that any hormone change, just getting older, your hormone, your testosterone changes, and you go through hormone changes, and some people take pills for that, and it can bring on things. So when you say looking at the whole body, are you saying diet, exercise, sleep better,
all of that? All of that. That is so. The 4 pillars. Women need to understand, and that's exactly what the film does, is educate you on the things that we never were really educated about menopause or perimenopause.
Right.
And it's like one of those films that you should have watched when you were in the 12th grade, when they,
when you're going through the change. You go through the change again, and nobody talks to you about it.
Yeah, we're talked about our periods and, all of that and puberty, but no one really sat down and said anything about menopause. And when I was growing up, it was called the change.
Well,
it
was just called
probably
the change.
A lot of teachers hadn't gone through it yet.
Well, I am curious, though. The title is Unleashing the Wild Woman, and that feels powerful to me.
It is.
What does that phrase mean when we're looking at it from in context of menopause? Because I also have worked with older men whose wives have gone through, and they're like, oh, man.
I was there. It was awful. Yeah.
That's a great question, because I feel that menopause, especially post-menopause, you're going to spend a third of your life there. Yeah. And that part of your life should be enjoyable.
It should.
And so unleashing, it came to me one night. It's like, wait a minute. it should be something empowering. I knew the change and unleashing, because women think that after 50, it's downhill after that.
Well, I do think the society has a big part of playing where they almost want women to believe that at a certain age, you are invisible. You are a little loony, you're going crazy, but because there's a lot of stigma.
I'm not touching that.
There's a lot of stigma around menopause. So when you were reaching out to women and doctors to talk about it, were women open to talk about this openly?
Women were very open. We just did a premiere at the Health Museum in January, and we showed the film, and we also had an expert panel of integrative medicine docs there. And oh my God, the reception there from the women in the audience was just unbelievable. It just made us think we need to do more of this. So we're actually planning on doing more screenings, one in May and one in October. But women are wanting the information. Now, when I used to pitch this, I've tried to pitch this all over the place, at Real Screen Summit, where there's people who are buying programming for cable networks. I've gone to LA, I've gone to London, and I've pitched this. Menopause, we have to start talking about it. And no one wanted to talk about it.
We did.
Yeah.
I know.
On Hello Houston, we'll talk about just about anything.
I wanted to ask about the mental part of this, because Celeste sort of touched on it, that you get to a certain point and women they feel like part of their womanness has left them, that they're not the same woman they were, but they are. And in fact, could probably be more.
Besides the actual physical things that are happening to you, where you're like, ugh.
Yeah, but mentally you're like, things have changed. I don't feel good about myself.
Right.
And the reason why a lot of women have that mindset is because they haven't been introduced to hormones. When your hormones start to drop, especially your estrogen, your progesterone, and your testosterone, you begin to feel the symptoms of perimenopause.
Right. But you kind of feel that. I mean, we're getting kind of detailed here, but every month you kind of feel like, well, I know what's happening now. I feel like junk.
Yeah, but there's hope. That's why I'm here, and that's why the film is so important for women to see. There's hope for mental health. We have a woman on there who is a spiritual coach that talks about meditation, how meditation is very good, mindfulness. Women get into this whole thing about depression, and they go to their docs and they give them an depressant, and that does not help the problem, especially with your libido. If you're having libido problems, it's gonna continue to lower that, and it's not going to make you feel any better. But if you get your hormones balanced, and an integrative medicine doc could help you do that. Functional medicine doctors can help you do that. That's really important, and that will change your life.
And I am curious, though, Linda, we're talking about doctors, and I was curious if you saw any disparities, in care depending on race, income, access to health care for women, and where we need to be doing better.
Research. Awareness. Not only am I trying to raise awareness with women and trying to get them to understand about hormones, we have to educate the whole medical profession about who sees women about hormones, because they don't know how to prescribe it. They don't know what to do. So that's why when I went to my gynecologist and said, well, I want to replace my hormones, she said, well, honey, I don't know what to do for that. We didn't learn that in medical school.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my God. So I had to find an integrative medicine doc, and they were able to help me.
Are you going to screen at different medical professional conferences?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
We got to wrap. I hate we have to wrap here.
Me too.
May, can we see it?
We are looking for a venue right now. It will be on our website, gibbsmediagroup.com.
Great.
But this is a great and important conversation. Linda Gibbs is a producer, director, and founder of Gibbs Media. Thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
You're very welcome.
Good to see you.
Coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top headlines. We'll also share our latest current obsessions.
Woo!
And we want to know yours, so be sure to send them in. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston. Frank has a great current
March
obsession.
Madness these days, too.
And March Madness.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
On the next Friday News Roundup, President Trump said it was a, quote, excursion that would be over in days. Now the Pentagon wants $200 billion for the war in Iran, and the U.S. is reportedly weighing sending thousands of troops to the region. What we learned and didn't from intelligence officials pressed on the war this week, next time on 1A.
1A can be heard this afternoon at 2 on News 88.7. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system. This is your NPR station KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 noon.
Live from NPR News in New York City, I'm Dua-Lisa Kautal. While hosting Japan's first female prime minister at the White House, President Trump said he's not putting troops on the ground in the Middle East.
Iran is a serious threat to the world, to the Middle East and to the world. And everybody agrees with me. I think virtually every country agrees with me on that. So I wanted to put out that fire. And I said, if I do that, oil prices will go up, the economy will go down a little bit. I thought it would be worse, much worse, actually. I thought there was a chance it could be much worse. It's not bad, and it's going to be over with pretty soon.
Through an interpreter, Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi said the global economy will experience a huge hit because of the war in Iran, but she expressed faith in Trump.
I firmly believe that it is only you, Donald, who can achieve peace across the world.
The meeting's intended focus, China and business deals, has been overshadowed by the Iran war. Joe Kent, the counterterrorism official who quit his job over the war against Iran, tells a high-profile critic of the conflict, Tucker Carlson, why he did so. NPR's Elena Moore reports.
Kent, the former director of the National Counterterrorism Center, is casting doubt on key arguments the White House made for attacking Iran, saying the country did not pose an immediate threat to the U.S. and was not close to obtaining a nuclear weapon.
They weren't 3 weeks ago when this started, and they weren't in June either.
June, referring to the U.S. military strike on Iran's nuclear sites. Kent has faced blowback in the past for conspiratorial comments, including about the January 6th attack on the Capitol. But Kent's comments here may be giving voice to a fraying part of the MAGA coalition, who feel Trump promised one thing, no new wars, and are getting the opposite. Elena Moore, NPR News.
Most people who get health insurance through the Affordable Care Act marketplaces have had to cut household expenses this year to help manage higher costs. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin reports that's according to a new survey published today.
Congress let extra premium subsidies expire this year, so costs are much higher for the millions of people enrolled in ACA plans, including Ken Warner and his wife Parveen Vora in Manchester, Connecticut.
In 2025, we were paying $630 per month. And now we're over $2,500.
The new survey from nonpartisan health research organization KFF asked ACA enrollees about how they've managed these higher costs. Here's KFF pollster Ashley Kurzinger.
More than half said that they're cutting back on some sort of household spending. That includes cutting back on groceries or, maybe finding an extra job or working more hours.
Warner says he may have to take money from retirement savings. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
And this is NPR from New York.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Tonight, the Houston ISD State-appointed Board of Trustees will consider and may approve partnerships for 4 top-performing high schools to work with outside organizations for more autonomy over their campuses. The schools include Challenge Early College High School, Energy Institute High School, Houston Academy for International Studies, and the Kinder High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. News 88.7's Bianca Seward has the latest on what could be a major development.
The partnerships are possible under a 2017 law and are formally known as 1882 partnerships. Supporters see this as a smart way to bring money and innovation to the district. Critics see it as outsourcing management of public schools. If approved, it will allow schools to partner with outside organizations for more control over areas like curriculum, staffing, and their academic calendars. It also comes with additional per-student funding from the state. HISD has had several years of enrollment declines and has lost tens of millions of dollars in state funding. One key issue we're watching is the contract language. These agreements haven't been finalized yet, and understanding the terms between schools and their partner organizations will be critical to seeing how these partnerships will actually function.
News 88.7's Bianca Seward reporting. This week, Sweden's Crown Princess Victoria came to Houston to inaugurate the kingdom's newest consulate general in the United States. Sweden's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maria Malmer Sternergaard, who led her government's diplomatic and trade mission to Texas, weighed in on the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine.
I just want to emphasize how important it is to support Ukraine, because it's not only about Ukraine, it is about Europe. I think it is about the principles that we want the world to live by. That is, it should not be rewarded if you, without any provocation, invade a friendly neighbor.
It's currently leading the alliance's forward land forces in Finland, as well as contributing to missions in the Baltic. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston.
Hello, Frank.
We're back. That was a really interesting first hour.
Yes.
Period.
A lot to talk about. But, Linda was great. And that is a topic that it's tough. And
she talks about it so well.
And she's so well versed in it.
Yep.
And I think that it's when you've been there yourself, and there's still a lot of stigma around it,
Really, menopause? Well, I think
there is. I think there's less now.
I think women have more stigma about it than men. I think
so.
Men first of all don't understand it, and
right.
they don't and I think that they don't appreciate it. They need to, and hopefully they'll get more educated, and hopefully this documentary that she's made will stream on one of the channels.
Yes,
and YouTube should be easy to get it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And men will watch it and learn more.
Hormones affect everybody.
Sure.
And it's one of those things where,
a libido too. And,
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So I'm glad that we're talking about it. I'm glad that you're joining us right now on Hello Houston, whether you're joining us on 88.7 or you're following along on YouTube. I tell you what, our YouTube chat has been banging lately. Yes. Yesterday I have to go back to yesterday when we were talking about headlines, and we were talking about Star Magazine and
National Enquirer.
National Enquirer. Somebody
Yeah.
brought up Bat Boy. I thought that was so funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, quick weather. It's nice outside. It's going to warm to 80.
Yep.
A little warmer in the evening, and then we're on our way to a real spring pattern of mid 80s every day and dry. So there you
get
have
out
it.
the sunscreen. Get
out
out the
sunscreen.
sunglasses.
We need to get a dermatologist on to talk about all that.
We absolutely
Yeah.
do need to get a dermatologist on.
So coming up, we're going to talk more about March Madness as well as heavy trash pickup. It's been put on pause. We were going to find out why. And our current obsession. So all straight ahead. In the meantime,
I will start with headlines.
Do it.
As we reported earlier this week, Republicans are looking at creative ways to combat James Talarico following his victory over Jasmine Crockett in the Democratic primary for U.S. Senator from Texas. We discussed on Monday how the GOP was trying to use Talarico's "God is non-binary" quote against him. Now, Republicans from Texas are digging up quotes that make it seem like Talarico is anti-Texas. This week, a nearly 4-year-old clip resurfaced of Talarico discussing what he described as an existential fight to defend animal welfare and reduce meat consumption. Texas conservatives jumped all over the soundbite, criticizing the moment as evidence that Talarico was ready to push for an end of iconic Texas barbecue. The most viral reaction came from U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, who called Talarico a, quote, freak who wants to ban barbecue. Incumbent U.S. Senator John Cornyn, who is currently in a runoff with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton for the GOP nomination to face Talarico in November, seized the controversy as a chance to rally Republican support and show off his pun game by posting, "The vote Republican this November, the stakes couldn't be higher." Stakes is spelled Steaks. What are your thoughts on this Republican strategy? Can you still be a real Texan and not eat meat? Do you agree with Talarico that Texans need to reduce meat consumption? Now is the time to join us, 713-440-8870. I mean, I'm not sure this is really about barbecue and more about political theater.
I don't smell steaks. I smell desperation. That's
I
what
that.
I smell.
Yeah.
It's like, what can we hit him with? Well, he almost said he was a vegetarian. You don't do that in Texas. It's just crazy, some of the stuff that they're coming up with. And I think he will weather that one just like he weathered the non-binary thing. And people are smart enough to know. In fact, we shouldn't eat as much red meat as we've been eating in our lives. That's a fact. It can cause a lot of problems. I love a good marbled, fatty ribeye, just like the next guy.
Yeah.
But I don't eat it nearly as much as I used to. I try to eat more salmon, more fish, more fried chicken.
Yeah, and I think what annoys me about this, and I say annoy because it feels like an annoyance, in that here you have a candidate like Talarico who continues to want to talk policy, and you have...
And what's Texas for everyone.
Yes, and you have
like,
Ted
what,
Cruz.
not vegetarians. We don't want it for them.
That's silly. You have Ted Cruz and you have Cornyn getting into identity politics. Come on, guys.
Why doesn't Cornyn start looking at his opponent and start worrying about that? Because if he thinks it's going to be a shoo-in for Cornyn in May, then he knows something I don't know. He knows that there's already been a deal done, and Paxton's going to drop out and go to the administration or something. He knows something we don't know because he's all against Talarico and not against his own opponent.
Right. And it just feels very much like Ted Cruz and Cornyn are trying to basically have a viral moment instead of actually looking at real substantive of issues that are really affecting Texans today. Not that I'm necessarily saying that James Talarico is the perfect candidate or endorsing him in any way. However, when we're just looking at this, you got to say, come on. Talarico's brought up some real policies, challenges to both candidates, Paxton and Cornyn. And
he's an 8th-generation Texan.
And he's a full Texan.
Cornyn born in Texas, too. Cruz, not so much, born in Canada, but got here as fast as he could and raised here. But, Talarico's as much a Texan, and more so than I am. I've only been here since '89.
That's all?
Yeah. Just four decades.
Again, it's one of those things where this really whole ban barbecue, that's a stretch. And I hope we can get back to the policy and the issues that are truly affecting Texans that matter versus if you're going to have barbecue or not. And I've got to say, I know some Texans that are vegetarians. And if you've ever been to a barbecue place, sometimes those sides, I got to tell you,
I know. I could probably live on sides, but
yeah,
I love barbecue. Like I said, if I had to pick one thing I had to eat for the rest of my life, it would be barbecue. All right, we have a call from Dante from Aldine. They eat a lot of barbecue in Aldine, I'm sure. Dante, what's your thought on this?
Yes, they do. They eat a lot of barbecue in Aldine, but I think it's just absolutely ridiculous that instead of talking about his policies and what he feels and what he thinks is correct for Texas, we're talking about whether he likes meat or not. And that's really that's poor politics, if you ask me. And the country, we have way more to worry about than whether somebody likes barbecue or not.
Yep. You're on Celeste's page and my page for sure. A waste of time to talk about that.
Affordability. We're looking at the Texas economy, affordability, healthcare. I mean, there are so many things that we need to be discussing, and that I want to hear from Senator Cruz and Cornyn and Talarico, not if you eat barbecue or not.
Thank you. Let's see what Wayne thinks from West Houston. Wayne, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello. How are you doing? Hey, how long do elephants live? 135 years. Why? Because they eat plants all day. So if you want to be live as long as an elephant, you better start eating greens every day. To hell with that meat.
Well,
coyotes and wolves only live 7, 8, 10 years, and then they're dead because they eat meat.
Well, listen, put this in your pipe and smoke it. They've done a lot of research on prostate cancer, and they find that gorillas and chimpanzees that have prostates, they don't get prostate cancer.
Why?
They don't eat meat, do they? And dolphins that are mammals and have prostates, they don't get prostate cancer. Now, I'm not a doctor, okay? Don't take me this. I mean, look it up on your own.
Yeah.
But from what I've read, dolphins don't get, but they eat seafood. And the tigers, and like you said, the cats and the humans that eat meat get prostate cancer. Now, is there a causal relationship? I have no idea. But as someone who is going through prostate cancer, it's one of those things that's probably got some merit to it.
Sure. And that is, again, the phone number is 713-440-8870. Now, Frank, there's something else going on.
I know, and it's just making me madness. Not really. Houston Cougars men's basketball team's ready for a chance at redemption after last year's bitter loss to the Gators in that championship game. That was really tough.
That was a tough one. We had just started.
I know. We were
Hello,
right
Houston.
there, ready
we were
to
there
go.
with them.
I know. But the Cougs are ready to turn the page and make another run in the NCAA tournament. Houston's going to face the Idaho Vandals tonight in Oklahoma City. And the first round tip-off is at 9:10 p.m. on True TV. Joining us to make sense of all of this March Madness, one of my favorites, Charlie Pallilo. How are you, sir?
Hi, Charlie.
I'm very well.
So who's going to win?
Favorite sports event of the year.
I know, right? So look, Prairie View A&M earned its first NCAA tournament victory over Lehigh on Wednesday night, 67-55. So Texas is representing. What do you think about the Cougs?
Well, they have a chance to win the whole darn thing. And wouldn't that be closure for people going all the way back for the YouTube crowd, dug out the vintage Phi Slamma Jamma t-shirt for our visit. U of H is not quite as good as it was last season for a couple of reasons, but it is darn good. It's a number 2 seed, and you never want to put the cart ahead of the horse. It's why it's called madness. Predictions can be shaky, but if the Cougars are to finally seize the Holy Grail, they'll probably have to go through Florida. You mentioned the gut-wrenching championship game. That would be an Elite 8 matchup. The number 1 seed, Florida, the defending champions, against the number 2 seed, Houston. That game would be played at Toyota Center. So there will be some Sturm and Drang from Gator fans saying, hey, we're the higher seed, yet we have to play on the road, basically. It's not the Cougars' home court all season long, but obviously it would be an overwhelmingly U of H crowd. Here's hoping we get to that matchup for a chance to U of H to get back to the Final Four.
But, Charlie, let's roll it back a little bit. Why is March Madness such a big deal every year? What is it about this tournament that really captures the fascination of fans?
Two core elements. One, the Cinderella angle, which is now going to be, I think, diminished going forward for the core reason of NIL, where you'd have these smaller schools who were capable, who over the course of a full season could not feast on a steady diet of big power school conference opponents. But when it's one and done, it's not best of 7 where you have to take down a team repeatedly like in the NBA playoffs. It's one game where one injury or one player has a terrible game for the favored team, or one kid goes out of his mind for the lesser team. Mm-hmm. Now those lesser teams, if they coalesce or have that one breakout star, well, now he's going to leave for a bigger payday the next year at a higher conference, bigger paying school. Right. Last season, the 4 number 1 seeds all reached the Final Four for the first time since 2008. The Cougars hope that doesn't repeat this year since they're a number 2. But there are inevitably going to be at least some upsets in the first, second round, which are charming to see the little engines that can. But in the end, it's typically about the heavyweights slugging it out for the championship of the college basketball world. So it caters to all tastes.
But, speaking of big power schools, UT barely made it into the tournament. But there are some good teams out there, including Texas Tech as a number 5 seed. What other Texas teams have a good shot here? And talk to us a little bit about Texas as well.
U of H is the only one given any sort of plausible shot that it would be considered less than a basketball miracle if they were to cut down the nets next month. Texas had to win a play-in game, and it eked out that victory. Former Cougar Tremont Mark, now at Texas, hit the game-winning shot. Texas has a chance against BYU. Injuries, right? Health is the biggest X factor in life for all of us. Well, in sports, the second leading scorer for BYU, he is out injured, so maybe Texas has an opportunity to advance. Conversely, Texas Tech would have had a serious shot of going to the Final Four. I'm not saying no shot now, but their star player, a probable first-team All-America, a kid by the name of J.T. Toppin, being paid $3 million this season to play college basketball, by the way, but tore an ACL a few weeks ago, so his season was over. Texas Tech will still be competitive, but tough to see them at the very highest level. Also in the field and playing the game before U of H tonight, Texas A&M, which is a small underdog against St. Mary's, a small school but a big-time program out in California. If the Aggies pull the minor upset, we'd have U of H against A&M on Saturday.
Hey, Charlie, one of our YouTubers, Alex Garza, says, I have U of H going far but not winning. I have Arizona winning. One main reason for me, every game played is like a final game 7. You're going to see the best of each team to win. What do you think?
On point. Arizona defeated U of H twice, once in the regular season at Fertitta Center, and then again to win the Big 12 tournament. But like those brokerage ads, past predictions are no guarantee of future results. U of H would be delighted to get a rematch because a third encounter would be in the national championship game. U of H needs to get through Florida. Illinois in the Sweet 16 would be no walk in the park for U of H. It would be a huge – never say never. I'll say never. If Idaho played Houston 100 times, Houston would win 100 times unless the bus got lost on the way to the arena and the Cougars had to forfeit or something. I think U of H should have too much for Texas A&M or St. Mary's, but that wouldn't be a complete shocker. After that, you can kind of toss coins on a lot of these games. If U of H gets through Florida, avenging that defeat to get to the Final Four, the chalk says the Cougars would then play Duke. And remember, the Cougars pulled off that incredible comeback to stun the Blue Devils in the semifinal game last year. Duke would probably relish an opportunity to avenge that, though with an entirely different roster.
Well, speaking of Duke, Charlie, I understand you're a Syracuse fan. How are you feeling going up against Duke?
Well, my school is kind of in a long nap in mattering in college basketball. It's a straight season. Syracuse not in the tournament. In fact, the last time I was in the tournament, U of H ousted my Orange in 2021. So we're unfortunately old news. Presently, Duke is really good, but has one of its key players going to miss at least the start of the tournament injured. But the probable national player of the year, a kid named Cameron Boozer, who's a freshman, he's enough to perhaps take Duke to the Final Four. Arizona, at least by the odds, is considered the slight favorite to win the national championship. But among Arizona and Duke, Michigan, which was number 1 for a part of the year, but follow the recurring theme. A key player lost to injury for the tournament. Then Florida, you have U of H, Iowa State, like the Cougars in the Big 12. That's probably a six-pack of teams that if any of them wins the national championship, no one should be surprised.
So, Charlie, any predictions on major upsets?
Well, it's tough to pinpoint the one major upset. For the first 35 years since the field expanded to 64 teams, now it's 68, no number 16 seed had shocked the number 1 seed. Well, now it's happened twice within the last 6 years, but to predict that, you're talking about teams that are 25, 30-point underdogs. That's why they're absolute shock the world upsets when they happen. Number 11 VCU over number 6 Louisville, because you'll never believe this, Louisville's best player is going to miss the first game of the tournament injured. Following the medical reports can be very important this time of season.
Wow.
Charlie Pallilo.
And we talked to Kalshi, one sports guy, about the Kalshi bet, quote unquote betting or whatever you want to call it. I guess Kalshi's going to be pretty busy over the next month, huh?
Yeah, it's like the shopping malls probably do 80-85% of their business around the holidays for the year.
Yep.
All these betting sites or predictive markets, they make hay like few others on March Madness. I don't know what the count is, but it's probably a couple of $100 billion.
Wow.
That will be bet when you factor in legally and still illegally on the NCAA tournament.
Well, come back after it's all over and let's talk about it.
Charlie Pallilo, sports analyst, you are always great to have on Hello Houston. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with Houston City Council member Julian Ramirez about the city's new heavy trash pickup system and more. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Meet Gamola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Gamola to learn more about his ride.
Gun to their head, literally and economically.
I'm Natalie Kitroeff. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can hear The Daily this evening at 7 on News 88.7.
Khark Island is Iran's Persian Gulf oil export hub. The U.S. has already attacked the island, and now President Trump has suggested future strikes could hit the oil infrastructure.
We can do that on 5 minutes' notice. It'll be over.
We consider the implications for the oil market and the U.S. military on the next Morning Edition from NPR News.
Morning Edition every weekday from 5 until 9 a.m. on News 88.7.
Get to know how people around the world have used local herbs for their health.
All of our ancestors practiced herbs for health.
Do like the Norwegians do and keep some dark bread on hand for a late-night sandwich.
It's called kveldsmat, which means the evening food.
And find solace in the empty corners of America.
You look where the lights are, and you go where they're not.
On the next Travel with Rick Steves.
Travel with Rick Steves every Saturday at 6 a.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from West Chase District, serving businesses with office options, regional connectivity, amenity investments, and talent pool access within a managed business and residential hub in Houston. More on how West Chase works at westchasedistrict.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conference, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
Well, Houston's plan to switch to an on-demand heavy trash pickup system, which I just thought was brilliant. It's been put on pause earlier this month as the city continues to deal with ongoing delays and a surge in missed pickup complaints. Officials say they want to get the system right before rolling it out. But for many residents, the frustrations they've already piled up, so to speak. With us now is Houston City Council member at large Julian Ramirez. Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody listening and watching.
Well, we're glad you're here, and we're glad you're going to solve this mystery for us. What we asked Mayor Whitmire about this at the rodeo when he was our guest, and he listed a lot of problems with heavy trash pickup. What are you seeing, and what solutions are there?
Well, I tell you what, I'm seeing a lot of heavy trash on the street and hearing a lot of complaints. So it's challenging in a city as big as Houston, more than 600 square miles. If you were going to set up a system to pick up trash and recycling and heavy trash, you would not design it in this way. So it's a challenge on multiple levels. Historically, that department, solid waste, has been inefficient. And the mayor has seen that. He's tried to make some changes, make it more efficient. He's had a change in leadership. And we're going to see, what works.
He likes the leadership.
He does. He likes Director Hassan and has confidence in him to get the job done.
Now, Councilmember Ramirez, when we look at the core of accountability, what specifically caused the stalling of the rollout?
Well, I don't think they were prepared, right? It was an interesting idea. And we had to do something because heavy trash is not getting picked up on time and people are frustrated. So they come up with this plan to go to an on-demand system where if you wanted heavy trash picked up, you could call up to 4 times a year and a truck would come out and haul away your heavy trash. Evidently, they had some challenges internally and they're not able to get that going as soon as they had hoped. And in addition to that, I think there was more work to be done in terms of community engagement because a lot of folks in the neighborhoods had questions.
So this was more of a planning failure than an execution failure? Is that what you're saying?
I would say so because we really haven't started to put the program into place.
Heavy trash is or is not the same as illegal dumping because then they're both problems.
It's not, right? Heavy trash is
well, I get it as a resident. I understand it, but we're still having this problem. Even if we solve this heavy trash issue, the illegal dumping comes with another host of issues.
That's correct. The heavy trash is the trash that you generate that you wouldn't put in your trash container. The illegal dumping has a number of causes, one of which is work done by contractors, often unpermitted, and instead of paying the cost to take it to the dump or what have you, they'll just go a couple blocks over in the other direction and dump it where nobody's watching.
And it seems oftentimes, and I know we're kind of diverting into this illegal dumping, and we'll get back to trash pickup, but it's interesting, Councilmember Ramirez. Oftentimes when we're having the conversation around illegal dumping, that specific example keeps coming up about contractors who will go down. So if we know the root cause, that is really one of the major causes of it, what are y'all doing to stop it?
Well, we need more enforcement resources, and that's a problem throughout city government is we have these rules in place, we have these ordinances in place, but we don't seem to be doing a very good job of enforcing the rules. So we need more resources devoted to holding people accountable when they don't follow the rules. Also, I think that we need to enlist the public in these efforts as well. If you see illegal dumping going on, we need to make it easier for folks to report that so that city officials can get on that and do something about it.
And then there's the yard and limb pickup. So if you have heavy branches, maybe something's falling out, especially after a barrel. There was a lot of tree limbs that came down the derecho. So you put these on the road or on your front lawn. How do you get those picked up?
Well, how did we get those picked up? We hired private companies to do that. And I think we could do the same thing with heavy trash. We've got private companies in business in the city that already have the resources, the trucks and the employees to go out and haul this stuff away. I'd like to see the city spend a little bit more money to hire some of these private companies to take care of this backlog.
Well, that brings us to money. So what kind of money are we going to have to throw at this problem to really get a solution?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm not sure of the answer. We do have a fund balance that we can dip into. I know city officials are loath to do that, right? Because we want to keep a reserve in case we need that money. And by law, there is a floor below which we cannot go, and we always stay above that, right? So we're not really close to it. But funding is a challenge. We operate under a structural budget deficit, which means that year in, year out, our revenue does not match our expenditures. And when we get to the end of the fiscal year, we have to make it up somewhere.
So,
So that's a continuing challenge.
Who made the call to hit pause on the rollout?
Well, that would have been solid waste, right? So the way the city government operates is all the departments, including solid waste, are under the mayor. The mayor has administrative power and executive power. Council is legislative only, and even that power is limited. Now, we can act as advocates for constituents when they have complaints, and we can lobby on their behalf with the city departments like solid waste, and we do that.
So how much is this pause or stall costing taxpayers then? Is there some type of cost associated to this?
I'm not sure the pause is a cost, right? Because we are not putting that program into place.
In execution,
right,
okay.
Right.
But what do people do with their heavy trash?
That's a good question, and just keep calling and reaching out to your council members, reaching out to solid waste, and the squeaky wheel sometimes gets the grease.
Yeah, so it's not like you're not picking
principle.
it up. It's just this new program has stopped for the moment.
That's correct. They're still picking it up. We just haven't rolled out.
So 311 or 211 on that?
311.
311.
Are there certain neighborhoods being hit harder than others when we're looking at lack of trash pickup?
I think it's a problem citywide.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hearing.
And then we had a YouTube comment about recycling that did I hear somewhere that 12% of recycling garbage is actually recycled?
That's probably accurate. That's a whole nother issue. A lot of the recycled material that comes in is contaminated, right? It's not clean. It's mixed in. It shouldn't even belong there, and those are additional.
But
challenges.
I know we participate in that, and our recycle fills up much faster than our garbage. And then the recycle was only picked up every 2 weeks, with the garbage being picked up every week. But the recycle is the one that really needed to go.
Same. And I'll tell you, for myself, I've seen an improvement in the recycling pickup. Months ago, my recycling, normally picked up on Monday or supposed to be, would still be sitting out Thursday and Friday. That problem seems to have been solved. And my garbage gets picked up on time. But the heavy trash, yard waste,
that was every other
trees
month.
And limbs, right.
Yeah.
What about
that
missed
continues to be a problem.
pickups? Because I have heard some areas have missed pickups.
Like for heavy trash?
For heavy trash, or just in general, their trash is being missed.
That's
it's
a
not
common,
being picked up.
Well, the trash missed pickup, we've improved at that. Solid waste has improved in that operation. But regarding the other types of pickups continues to be.
We
a
did
problem.
have the whole neighbor app that that's very popular. We did have a suggestion: get together with your neighbors and all put your heavy trash out at the same time, and everybody call. Get those squeaky wheels going, and perhaps you'll get all of your heavy trash picked up.
Well, good idea. And I tell you what, when they came to committee to roll this program out, I asked, well, when you go out to the neighborhood to pick up trash over here, are you also going to look at other homes in the neighborhood to see if they've got heavy trash that needs to be picked up? And was told no. It's going to be a truly on-demand thing, and they'll go here and they'll go there.
We're
and
too
not
big a
necessarily
city without
look
enough
around.
trucks, right?
Correct. And understand those are different trucks than the ones that pick up your regular garbage and your recycling, right? So it's a different truck. It's got a crane on it, and that's how they carry the heavy trash away.
But now, Councilmember Ramirez, I am curious, is this just a symptom of a bigger issue with Houston's waste management system?
Well, I'd say so. As I said at the outset, if you were going to design a company or a system to handle this, you would never design it the way it's laid out. It's just a challenging city the way it's laid out, and making it efficient has been a huge problem.
All right, we do have a call, Council Member Chris from Cypress. Chris, welcome to Hello Houston. What's your comment or question?
Hi, I had a comment about the recycling. I think if there was more education, people, try to recycle, but if they, say, for example, they have a pizza box, if they take and they put a greasy pizza box in the recycling, you really want to make sure that, glass, plastics, rinse it out, cardboard is clean, and certain things, just let people know, how to kind of help the process along better would help increase those numbers.
You're absolutely right, Chris, and education is a huge piece of it. In fact, when we were talking about this a few months ago in council, I pointed out, hey, the company that handles this should bear some responsibility for the failure to educate people on how to properly dispose of recycling materials. There should be an incentive or a disincentive, if you will, when their education piece is failing to help Houstonians understand what can be recycled and when.
Well, speaking of which, we got a recycling comment that the recycling sites are even more confusing. Checked the website, called 311, still got bad info. Turns out one kind of paint goes one place, another kind of paint goes elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Right, and checking ahead is very important, right? So we've got some depositories out in some of the neighborhoods where you can drop off a wide range of recycled materials. But yeah, you got to make sure they're open. And then when you get there, how long is the line? That's been a frustrating thing for Houstonians as well. There's a proposal that's being put forth by a number of us to give Houstonians the opportunity to find out before they start their journey, hey, is it open? Has it reached capacity? Is this a good time for us to go?
Does it cost any money if I happen to have a truck and I fill it with heavy trash for me and my neighbors, take it somewhere and dump it for free?
What do you mean by that?
Well, heavy trash pickup. Let's say I volunteer to do it because it's not being picked up. Maybe we have a God forbid, a hurricane. A lot of flooding. Flooding happens. You've got carpet all over the streets, along with all this other stuff. And it's going to take volunteers. So have we thought about where those volunteers can take this heavy trash, and does it cost any money to leave it there?
I think if you can prove you're a City of Houston resident, you can dispose of that yourself if you're inclined and you've got the setup to do that.
We did get a text. Are you all thinking about implementing a heavy trash fee for faster pickup?
As I said before, the plan was you get 4 times you can request heavy trash per year, and after that you'd have to pay a fee of some sort. So I think that's part of the proposal that the administration under the mayor has put forth, but hasn't been put into practice yet.
Given the size of the city of Houston, and we look at our waste management system, how do you all look at other major cities that compare to us, and how are we doing compared to other areas in the nation?
Well, that's one of those internal things that I'm not privy to. As I said, solid waste is under the mayor's administration, right? And so we certainly try to advocate on behalf of Houstonians and help where we can, but they're really running that shop.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, and I guess that's the answer. Dallas, I think they charge everybody for regular trash pickup, just a garbage fee, $5 a month, $10 a month. That can be a lot to some people. But it seems to me that to get your garbage picked up, $10 a month, there's some reasonable fee out there that people are willing to pay.
Well, and there have been calls for that. But I tell you what, the comment I've made is if you've got a leaky water hose, you don't want to put more water through it because you're just going to lose more through leakage. And that's what we've got right now. We've got an inefficient solid waste department. But let me say this. And I'll defend those folks who drive the trucks and pick up the trash. They work as hard as anybody in city government. They have long days. They get to work when it's dark. Oftentimes they don't get home until it's dark. And I've got so much respect for how hard they work and what they're going through.
And
so I want to make that clear.
They never complain because I'll pass them and wave to them, and they wave back. They're always nice.
Right. They're great, and I've ridden with them, and they work really hard.
So, do you think? Are you optimistic? Are you hopeful? What can you tell Houstonians when they will be getting reliable heavy trash pickup?
Well, I don't have an answer for that. As I said, day-to-day operations are run by the solid waste director under the mayor. I will say they've done some good things to save cost. We bought some garbage trucks recently at what I'll call a discount. They were the unpainted variety. slightly used, and we got them from another city, and we paid a lot less for them. So they're taking some steps to save money and also increase their capacity to pick up trash.
So work smarter, not harder. Speaking of which, any other projects you want to tell us about here on Hello Houston?
Well, I've got a lot of things going. Public safety has been a priority of mine. I think the mayor and the administration have done a good job on that. We got the firefighters a new contract, the police officers a new contract. I sponsored an amendment to add a cadet class at the police academy, my first year. So that continues to be a priority.
My husband's on that committee.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of that group.
That's great. That's great. And by the way, thank you for providing this wonderful weather, Frank.
Yes. Do you eat steak? That's the big question.
Love steak.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Because you're in awfully good shape.
Well, I've been riding my bike recently. I'm getting ready to do the MS 150.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm trying to get in shape for that.
Give us the weekend again on that.
April 25th and 26th.
But Council Member Ramirez, something that we have been talking as a Latino, we've been talking about the headlines. What are your thoughts on the recent allegations coming out against Cesar Chavez?
Mixed feelings. Obviously, don't condone child abuse, grooming, anything like that. Coming so long after the man has died, when he doesn't have the opportunity to defend himself. That's one of the thoughts running through my head. But if he did it, obviously that's horrendous. And I'll confess, I haven't read the article in the New York Times about all the details. Yeah.
It's pretty detailed and it's pretty overwhelming. So be prepared for that.
Well, that's sad.
And it's very sad. And there's another interview
that's not right.
with Dolores Huerta on the subject. So.
Yes, and Houston City Council Member Julian Ramirez, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
You bet that went by so quick.
I know. Come back anytime.
Yeah,
I'd love
anytime. Coming up, our current obsessions, and we can't wait to hear yours. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
On the next Friday News Roundup.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Administration slashing of foreign aid last year.
They never said violence against women was okay. It was just getting rid of anything that made a reference to gender.
I'm Elsa Chang, the ripple effects of aid cuts on All Things Considered from NPR News.
That begins at 3 this afternoon on News 88.7.
Next time on Climate One, how do leaders find a balance between addressing climate, affordability, and planning for the future?
We have to compromise on behalf of what can be done, but also take the very, very visionary and compassionate steps.
Hawaii Governor Josh Green on the state's decarbonization on the next Climate One.
Sunday morning at 6 on News 88.7. Support comes from Specs Wines, Spirits, and Finer Foods, celebrating the Lone Star State with locally and Texas-made spirits, wines, brews, and more throughout the month of March. Details at specs.com. The fun starts here. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celeste Diaz-Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
And now it's time for one of our favorite segments. It's a fan favorite, our current obsessions.
Yes, and lately it's been heavy trash pickup.
Yeah.
We've talked about it a lot.
We've talked about affordable housing, heavy trash pickup.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. At least we're getting the right trucks. And I think it's smart to get used trucks.
Yeah, we know that this is something that really is upsetting Houstonians.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants trash in their yard.
No.
And my British computer guy made the remark that it's the same thing I had. They want you to leave it off the curb, which I get it. You get a heavy rainstorm and all that trash is in the gutter, you're not going to get drainage. So you're going to flood your street. And there are other reasons too. It can be dangerous for cars. But they want you to put it on your grass. Well, if they don't come pick it up, it's going to kill your grass. And that's exactly what happened to our grass.
And there is nothing more frustrating than putting out your trash and it being out there, or they only pick up certain things. Oh, that makes me so mad.
And you would think really HOAs, well, some HOAs do have private pickup.
I think we do.
Oh, well, there you have it. Well, yeah, I'm in a high rise, so I don't have these issues.
But now
anymore.
It is time for our current obsession.
Okay.
Clearly, Frank and I are obsessed with trash pickup, but we want to hear what yours are right now. One of the top trending items now on X is the trailer for the upcoming Spider-Man film, Spider-Man Brand New Day. And, of course, we want to hear your obsessions. Give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870. You can also email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Well, we got one here.
Okay, tell me.
Trader Joe's dark chocolate-covered mini pretzels.
Oh,
sounds delicious.
Trader Joe's gets me.
They do a lot of good stuff at Trader
Joe's is that grocery store that I go to it and then I actually have to go grocery shopping. I just buy snacks there. I don't actually grocery shop there.
That's so funny.
That is so funny.
Sean Radigan is obsessed with What's My Line on I think he means YouTube. I think he means YouTube, but it was a game show. Thank you very much, Sean. I know that. On CBS every Sunday night from 1950 to 1967. I will say we watched Disney on Sunday nights. The Wonderful World of Disney.
Oh, that's
every
awesome.
Sunday. I guess it was on NBC. Was it on NBC? The Wonderful World of Disney?
Well, Disney's probably would be an ABC thing, right?
Well, they ended up buying them, but they didn't buy them until 1994.
So, all right, Frank, it's time. What is your current obsession?
Are you ready to Google this?
I don't think people are going to have to go this one.
Because he's been around a while.
Well, yes.
Punch the monkey.
Punch the monkey.
Punch is so precious.
Baby
a Japanese
Punch.
a snow monkey. A snow monkey.
Yes.
Abandoned by his mother. And so the zoo... dead, and when you're abandoned by your mother, you're not socially adept.
Yes.
And so I've watched Punch get his little teddy monkey. The orange teddy monkey.
The zookeepers gave him an IKEA little monkey.
Which is even as precious as he is.
Stuffed animal. Right. It's an IKEA little stuffed monkey. And if I would have known this sooner, I probably would have gone to IKEA and gotten you a little stuffed monkey, Frank. But
you could still do that.
So cute. And so Punch got really
took his monkey everywhere. Slept with them, woke up with them.
Yeah.
And then Punch saw himself in the water for the first time, and Punch finally made a friend. And
then they put him in a in the exhibit, or not the exhibit. What is it called? With the other monkeys. Yeah. And they were mean to Punch.
They were.
They were so mean. There's video of the other adult monkeys pushing Punch away, which. I mean, everybody online was like, "Get baby Punch out of there now," but they couldn't.
How were you were obsessed with this and you just didn't tell me?
I was obsessed. It just broke my heart,
Plus, he's the most precious thing you've ever seen.
He's adorable.
Adorable.
I have my 2 own baby Punches at home that's 10.
Well, and your husband's adorable also. Let's face it.
Big Punch over there.
But then one of the moms, is it an orangutan?
One of the other, it's a different species of monkey, took on Punch.
And so now he has a mom.
He has a mom.
And he has a friend. And he seems to have a girlfriend.
Does he?
Yes.
Baby Punch, that rascal.
Momo Kush, I think.
I don't know. But everybody needs to go look at Baby Punch.
All you have to do is Google Punch the monkey. And he's been around since July. I'm just late to the Punch party, which doesn't surprise me. I don't like parties with Punch.
Okay, so
anyway, that's my obsession.
That's a great one, Frank. I'm glad you brought it up because that was going viral. It's online. You can look up Baby Punch, Punch the monkey. There's also, you've made it when Saturday Night Live does a skit about you, and there's also a skit on Saturday Night Live where they bring on Baby Punch. So. Marcelo
really
Hernandez does
right?
the sketch, and it's hilarious. So my current obsession, I would say, is more of a pet peeve. Instagram has just become the next QVC.
You can go down a hole with Instagram.
Everybody is just selling things.
The algorithm, though. Okay, so I'm sorry.
No, selling things. I feel like anybody that I like or I follow is now like, I tried this great facial lotion. And then I'll be like, oh, okay. And then they're like, and you can click this link right here, and everything is linked. It's just not fun anymore. I actually hate it.
Yeah. Have you ever been approached by a group? I have too.
For like endorsements. Hey, can you? And I won't do it.
Well, I won't do it either.
Well, I don't think we can.
First of all, I think it's bull. Yeah. I don't think you're going to make it. I mean, Dominique Saxa makes a ton. But you and I are not going to make a lot of money on this. I don't. No, I'm not an influencer.
I don't want to be an influencer.
Although they're saying Punch is now, going to have even more friends because we've made him famous. So maybe we do. Maybe we are influencers, and we just don't know it.
But again, 713-440-8870. We can't be the only ones having fun here. We want to hear your current obsession. What is taking up all of your time? Sean says that's the cost of fame. Resin says Insta's been garbage. Links to acquire your phone data. It's true. It'll say like if you want to know my 10 high protein breakfast, you can tell what I've been looking at. Yeah. It'll say just comment protein. And so I'll comment protein, and then it'll send me the link, but I'm thinking it's going to send me the list, and it'll say send me your email. And that really bothers me. That really bothers me.
Yeah, I go through my email about once a week and just start blocking the senders of the email.
Yeah. No, I hate that.
It works for a little while.
I was actually having a conversation yesterday with somebody who was telling me about, as we're kind of talking about emails and spam, I want to hear from everybody out there who's been getting campaign spams and calls. Like, this is Ted Cruz and fundraising. It's kind of off the wall right now.
Well, I get something from James Talarico every second.
Yes, the robocalls with
and I've never given any money to James Talarico.
And it is wild.
I know.
Just in general, though, I mean, every hour I've been getting calls. And so the fact that I was sitting next to somebody, they were telling me about that, I was like, yeah.
Well, he's been on our show, but we've had Republicans on our show. If they want to, ask me for money, they can. Maybe if I like you, I'll give you some.
Really? I get a ton of
Bill
calls
King's a Republican. I love Bill.
I didn't know Bill King was a Republican.
Yeah, no, he's
Now, did Bill run for mayor?
Yes, and he's a very, conservative, fiscally conservative. Yeah. That's sort of his foundation.
That's a true Republican.
Yes, a true Republican who is fiscally conservative, socially progressive.
Yeah.
So, and we love Bill.
Oh, yes. MK says way too many political texts. It's too much.
I just got wind of this. Frank, you'd make at least $1 million a year doing weather on YouTube.
How do you know he didn't already try? I'm kidding.
Kind of a big commitment,
Sean, right? Frank on YouTube solo. Hey, what's going on here? You guys don't think I could make $1 million on YouTube?
Frank TV.
Frank TV.
Frank TV.
Friends with Frank. Well, we already have that.
My Instagram is Frank's My Guy. Because Channel 2 actually started that, Frank's My Guy.
Frank's My Guy.
And it was so successful because everywhere I would go, people would point to me and say, Frank's My Guy.
See,
it was really good. Then they abandoned it.
I am such a bad influencer. My Instagram literally is C like my name, C as in cat, Sherman. And Sherman's so hard to spell, SCHURMAN. Nobody's going to follow me.
Only one N?
One N.
Not two N's.
Yeah, I believe there was at one point 2 N's,
not
but it was
ER?
dropped. Not ER.
My maternal side, I've done all my DNA and all that.
Yes.
Goes to Herman, HERMANN.
Really?
Yes. I have about 10% German. The rest is Scottish, a little English.
Well, I married into Sherman, so I went from Celeste Diaz Granados to Celeste Sherman. Talk about identity crisis. You want to talk about being obsessed with something. All of a sudden, people thought I was like this large German white woman. And I'm like, no. I am this
I'm the short Hispanic lady. But listen.
Yeah, but listen. But again,
you don't want to mess with you. I can tell you that.
No way. 713-440-8870. My British computer guy says I blocked the numbers, but they still get through.
Well, and Braden Arnold says Meta, that's Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Is also ending end-to-end encryption on Instagram messages starting in May, which will allow them to scan your messages for data.
Get out.
Oh, I don't want to be a weatherman on YouTube or Instagram or any of that. They would, I would have.
I think like
I would have no
influencers
life.
are very. You're right. They really work hard, but that's just not that I don't want to work hard. I just don't want to be an influencer. I don't think that's cool.
I don't know
I want
what
to have
I would
influence. Yeah, we have influence.
I mean, I like to influence like men to get their health checked
Yes.
and to be smart.
And I want to influence women to continue to feel like their voice matters and that mothers can have careers.
Influence kids to stay in school.
And influence children to be nice to their parents.
Yes.
But we've
do
been
unto
having
others as you would have them do unto you.
Golden
and
rule.
do unto your parents as you will do unto your children.
And that brings us to the end of our show. We've run out of time. We've had too much fun.
Aren't you glad? What do we have tomorrow?
Who let us do this? Tomorrow, we're going to be back with more conversations. We're going to talk with Federico Salas Isnardi, the former director of the Mayor's Office for Adult Literacy. Read books. This is News 88.7. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
I'm Jesse Thorne. On Bullseye, when you watch a football game on TV, do you actually know what's going on?
It's sort of like when you put food in the microwave, do you understand what's happening?
We'll talk about football, the concept, and about writer Chuck Klosterman's new book on that subject. Plus, I'll talk with Fab Five Freddy, a hip-hop legend. That's on the next Bullseye from MaximumFun.org and NPR.
Tonight at 10 on News 88.7. Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from British International School of Houston, a learning environment designed to shape a generation of creative and resilient global citizens. More at bishouston.org. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Funding for Here and Now comes from MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink software, accelerating the pace of engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com.
From NPR and WBUR Boston, I'm Indira Lakshmanan.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. It's Here and Now. Coming up, new attacks on natural gas fields in the Middle East rattle energy markets, while European countries and Japan promise to help open the Strait of Hormuz.
Also, the U.S. oil embargo on Cuba has halted public transportation and even hospital surgeries.
The situation is pretty dire, even for Cuban standards.
Also, with the price of gold and silver soaring, mining towns in rural Nevada see an economic lifeline.
Anytime you have mining, we call it a roller coaster ride. You have peaks and valleys, good times, bad times, good times, bad times. And this is living proof of it right here.
The mining town of Tonopah, coming up Here and Now.
The news is first.
Live from NPR News in New York City, I'm Dwalisa Kautal. The Director of National Intelligence is back on Capitol Hill testifying before the House Intelligence Committee about domestic terror threats and also the war with Iran. Yesterday, Tulsi Gabbard was pressed by Democratic Representative Joaquin Castro of Texas on U.S. and Israeli objectives in Operation Epic Fury.
We can see through the operations that the Israeli government has been focused on disabling the Iranian leadership.